play really, really hard, and they execute the system, and that's what it's all about.
Yes, sir.
Trust.
He's pretty
Big trust. Big trust, baby.
Hey, yes, sir.
Right on cue. Hey, right on cue. Hey, let me close.
We're back on the Jumbo Set podcast. It is Wednesday, February 7th, 2024. My name is Jake Louque, and I'm joined on my screen by Spencer Nathaniel Schultz, who we'll get to in a second here, but wanted to open this show up with a shout out to our great presenting sponsor, Jimmy's Famous Seafood, a great place to pop in and get yourself some crab cakes, some half and half soup, perhaps, some nice fish dishes that they have. Just plenty of great stuff going on over at Jimmy's all the time. But I wanted to very quickly aid in their announcement of the fact that they are going to be doing an opening day tailgate March 28th for the Orioles opening day, or I guess their season opener there at Camden Yards. We will be in attendance. I think we're going to be getting a live show going. It is going to be hosted, or, you know, we're at least going to have one DJ, Paulie D, on the turntables doing the music. Nick Markakis is going to be in attendance. So if you're interested in attending, hanging out with us, having a few beers, maybe, pay some attention to the live show that we got going, check out jimmysfamousseafood.com in their events tab and get your tickets right now. I'm sure they're going to sell out real quick. It's coming up on us. March is next month. We're only 3 weeks away. That's a good feeling. How are you feeling, my friend?
Feeling pretty good. Feeling all right. Hibernated the last couple of days. I'm about to head out to Phoenix for the Waste Management Open, a little bachelor party action there. So I've been trying to get my beauty sleep in now, which I have done. I've been like a bear. Got a nice little haircut. Got a dermaplane on my face. Felt fantastic. Feel like a newborn baby.
You look really good.
Yeah, I feel good. I highly recommend. If you've never gotten a dermaplane, treat yourself.
I need to. I ran out of Kiehl's recently, and so I've been kind of, and it's pretty expensive, so I've been kind of waiting to get another one. And I'm just like, my skin is dying. And whenever I wear the breathe rights too at night sometimes, and I just got a red strip right here from it, just skin peeling off.
Get yourself a dermaplane. It makes you feel like a baby, a newborn baby. I ate kind of crappy last night. Just ate something quick and a little salty. I woke up and was like, felt all gross. And then I got the dermaplane. I was like, oh, my eyes are open and they work. Wow. Yeah. It'll they kind of give you a little rub while you're doing it. Gets the old wrinkle off the forehead, all that stuff. So go. I've said to my barber, Sam, one of my best friends, I was like, I feel like I scraped all the crud of football season off my face just now. And he was like, oh yeah. So real nice. Treat yourself. Go get yourself dermaplaned, fellas.
I mean, a lot of crud to scrape off there too.
I'm not a skincare guy either. I really don't do much at all. And so when I do something, it feels like, ooh, wow, that's nice. Real nice. Yeah.
I exfoliate like maybe once or twice a week. And like after that, that's always a nice feeling. That can dry you out quick though. You don't want to do that too much.
Definitely. I got a nice little oil. So yeah, self-care Tuesday, 7 a.m. flight. Excited. Going to be watching the Super Bowl there. And I decided, I was thinking about George Kittle. He's the man. I want to see George Kittle win this one. I want to see him have a big game.
I was thinking, I want to see Brock Purdy get one just for all that, just the takes, the take hurricane that I know is going to drive you up.
I did say he's not the guy in October. I was like, he's not the guy. He's not him. He is not him. And not like I'd been watching a ton of their tape at the time, but I'd watched games on the broadcast. And I don't know, that was that little stretch where they were in the gutter and Trent Williams and Debo are out and all that stuff. And
why can't he just be like the 12th best quarterback in the league?
Yeah, he is. Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Yeah. And
he's on a rookie contract and he's on a cheap rookie contract. So of course I saw some kind of just talk in the ethos, the Twitter sphere going on of saying there should be a hard knocks of just a front office or a couple front offices eventually, so that we can realize they're not that smart. A lot of them are dumb and make dumb decisions and do dumb shit, and people get jobs that they shouldn't. I'm sure most of them are. I mean, all of them are smart in some regard and are well educated, this, that, and the other. But you kind of have to be an idiot. I feel like if your quarterback costs $800,000, get some fucking talent around them. If that was your plan going into this year, you should be loaded up. Especially if it's not even like he had a Fields contract, a couple mil. He's got the minimum. He's got the teeniest, tiniest contract. So 49ers already had a lot of that in place, which is why they are so good. But you're an idiot. If you're planning on starting a cheap quarterback and you don't do anything around them, you're probably going to suck. That's probably the way it is. And you look at a team like the Jags that kind of spent-ish, and they're good-ish. But no, go capitalize. That's supposed to be the window. And I feel like teams aren't doing that as much as they were.
Yeah, the Ravens kind of, I wouldn't say they knocked it completely out of the park with the receiving options that they put around Lamar when he was cheap.
They got kind of fucked with Stanley. They signed Williams, who was hurt a lot. They made some big money moves.
Yeah, no, they definitely did. It was just like, how are you allocating it necessarily? Which I think and we'll get into it, obviously, with the offseason review we're going to do later in the pod. But it was just kind of like maybe we could reallocate X, Y, or Z there. Brock Purdy, I also did like, and it's funny because I had this thought the other day, but I didn't tweet it. Somebody put it out there today that he looks like Lee Harvey Oswald. And I think I was talking to you on the when we were playing golf the other day that I'm reading 11/22/63, the Stephen King book about going back in time and trying to kill Lee Harvey Oswald. So yeah, a good full circle moment for me there. And maybe Shanny's going to be up there on the grassy knoll on this Sunday and maybe try to put a stop to the motorcade that the Kansas City Chiefs have proven themselves to be. He
does look a little bit like the old Lee boy there. Just a smidge. Kind of has the nose. It's kind of the nose and the brow a little, something like that.
He got asked about this. I don't know who had the balls to ask him about this.
Also, shout out to you for calling Kyle Shanahan the Lee Harvey Oswald of the Chiefs motorcade. That was 10 out of 10.
Yeah. It's like somebody asked like Purdy about this at the media day today, and he was just vexed. Like he was just sitting there, like had no words for like 10 straight seconds. He's like, yeah, I don't know. That's a tough one to answer.
Shout out to Kyle Shanahan, drunk at the media availability, seemingly as well.
Settleman was in the mix there. It looked like
Jack had an awesome. I'll try and go find it. Jack had an awesome little line moving question where he asked Kyle Shanahan what color Gatorade is his favorite, while Kyle's seemingly like somebody. I think the KP show is a 49ers show. Said I can tell a Tito's slur when I see one. Here, I've got the video from Jack here. Let me see if I can share. All right. Share screen. There we go. All right. Share audio. This should be coming on here. Let's.
Coach, what's your favorite color Gatorade?
Favorite color Gatorade? I like orange.
What do you drink on game day? Water or Gatorade? Coach, what's.
So that was a the wrong thing. Now I'm just in hell. Whatever's happening is hell right now to me. Jack says he moved the line from plus 550 on orange to 325 with that question. So Jack out there is doing the Lord's work.
That's some ink under the.
We should have brought him back for this episode. I wonder what he might be out and about.
I think he's a little busy. He's like playing in poker tournaments and shit, and just like just gallivanting around the world. Tough life.
This would have been a phone pop in from him. I might text him and see if he can do a phone pop in.
Maybe we could do it later in the week. I don't know when he's flying back out, but yeah, we should at some point.
Yeah, but those were all fun.
Perhaps on the strip,
Shanahan's your boy too. You want to see Shanahan get this title?
Hell yeah! All this talk about MVP, like Brock Purdy's got to be MVP. Oh no, it's got to be Christian McCaffrey. Like no, it's fucking Kyle Shanahan. If we're gonna do this, like that's the guy. That's always been the guy. It's always gonna be the guy. It's Shanny and it's nobody else.
It is, and I don't know. This kind of feels like a weird. I know we try not to put too much into one game, but eventually Kyle Shanahan trip, kind of number 3 in a way for him. And this is a big deal. And Kyle Shanahan seemed pretty loose. I don't know. Big deal.
Loose, if he's slugging Tito's before the media availability.
Do what you do. Keep the routine the routine. If you slug Tito's during the week, have a little drink, Kyle. Have a little drinky poo.
Yeah. Listen, that's fine. And yeah, I will be rooting for him with a fervor in this game. The antics of this other team that they're going to be playing and some of the ancillary characters surrounding it. I'm good on all that. You can take it all away. 49ers all the way for me.
Jack says he is free to hop on. I'm going to shoot him a link, see if he hops on here. He says free right now. I asked him to hop on from his phone.
Yeah, that's fine. Then we can filibuster until we were ready.
Well, so what we can talk about here for a minute is that, the big matchup on paper is the 49ers 21 personnel with Juszczyk, Kittle, Debo, Ayuk versus the Chiefs, which is their Achilles heel. And we'll get into the Ravens season review here and thinking of that and seeing that the Ravens didn't run any of that when that is also their strong suit, and also even gave the 49ers trouble with, was insane. And we have Jack coming in live, perfect time.
Are you on Radio Row right now, sir?
Yeah, I am.
Look at that jacket. Let's see the fit.
Yeah, fit check.
That's nice. Oh,
There's
that's
not
real
much
nice.
more going on down there.
Hell yeah.
Live from Radio Row, Jack Settleman, Snapback Sports. Look at, I mean, if you're watching on YouTube, you're getting a look at just a convention line hanger wherever they are. Amazing stuff.
What's up, boys?
What's up? What's the best thing you've eaten since you've been there?
I had fried chicken and waffles last night at Yard Brick. They were pretty good, so I enjoyed that. They got like a jalapeno cheddar waffle, so I would say that. I mean, I've only been here for 24 hours, but that's the easy one. Momofuku tonight, so you know we got a good slate of eating to do. Eat our sorrows away.
Weirdest thing you've seen so far this week?
That me and Roger were seated for breakfast at the exact same time this morning. I call him Roger just because we, eat together.
Of course, yeah, first name basis.
But for those, Roger Goodell.
Right.
Yeah.
Just for those who aren't in the know.
That is probably the weirdest. I was within probably like 10, 12 feet of him, but I was facing this way. He was facing the other way, so I didn't get much intel on the script for Sunday. But yeah, I would say that's probably the weirdest thing.
Somebody broke the news that it's going to be a double overtime game. I think it was one of the head of officiating guys.
Yeah, that was so funny. I mean, hey, credit to them. I did a campaign for the NFL this year, which was like, you couldn't make this stuff up. They're buying into the script, so that's why the Ravens lost, because this whole shtick is scripted. That's what we're going with.
Listen, the further away we get from that game, the more I'm buying into it. Speaking of buying in, are we hitting the tables at all yet? How are we doing?
Night one, we have not hit the tables. Night two, I have called for a business meeting at the tables later tonight. So we will definitely be active in the casino. I do need to, so we're staying at the Venetian. Most media is over here at the Mandalay Bay, but the Wynn's going to be the hot spot. That's where Goodell was this morning. So most people aren't here yet. Like Radio Row's fairly dead. Marlon's coming in tomorrow. More players like Saquon, Trevor Lawrence are coming in tomorrow and Thursday. So once people get in town, I'm going to hit the Wynn and just people watch, because I mean, on my flight over from LA, front row, some, 58-year-old man who wishes he was 28 wearing some $4 million watch and a black briefcase. So it's just incredible talent out here for people watching.
For me, you're going to have to chain smoke all the cigarettes possible. That's my favorite activity in Las Vegas. Just chain smoking cigarettes anywhere and anywhere I can get my hands on.
We need Rovell. How many cigarettes were smoked during Super Bowl week in the Venetian casino?
He's probably walking around there somewhere. Go find him.
I love Darren. I'll text him. He's actually probably, they need a 60 for 60 on his, or 30 for 30 on his Radio Row. He comes.
I mean, you could do a 60 for 60.
Yeah, you could.
Back vertical, 60 for 60.
He'll walk around Radio Row and he's got his sheet of interviews, and he does like 8-minute spots, and like you catch him with like having 90 seconds, and he's like, yeah, this is the most bet on prop under the age of 42 for Americans in Nevada, and then like he's on to his next interview. It's quite funny.
Yeah, it makes me laugh in many different ways that we don't have to get into.
What was your personal over/under when arriving on changing an available line? Did you think you would be able to change a line that quickly?
We just broke this down on the show, so you're gonna have to listen.
That's why we texted you, because we were geeking out about you.
Yeah,
your interview with Tito's Kyle, as the people are calling him.
Yeah. So tell me that, because I didn't hear about this until after the fact. Was there a real narrative or storm going around that he was drunk?
It's just that a couple people, like I think one San Fran show, KP show, it's a big 49ers podcast and show and whatever, and one of them just tweeted and said, I know a Tito's slur when I see one or hear one. And then I was like, oh, and a lot of people were like, oh yeah, he's been having a little fun out there.
He was carrying around a cup of coffee. I see it. He looks tired in the eyes.
He could have just been hungover too. It's not like he was like actively drunk or something. He could have just been like accidentally drunk from the night before.
Perfect. Google it.
People, when he stops running the ball up 14 on Sunday, they're going to say he was drunk calling the game anyway. So I guess let that narrative run. So the backstory is actually pretty funny. 2021, or I guess, yeah, the Super Bowl, Mahomes, Brady. I go to the game in Tampa. This is the COVID year, so like every other seat is filled. And as a degenerate and also someone who had worked in the industry, I know that the Gatorade dump is a huge thing. That Super Bowl is famous because as it goes to get dumped on Arians, they flip to Mahomes on the bench. So there's no official view of what color the Gatorade was. And it was a blowout. So the only people watching at that point are literally the degenerates who are waiting for the Gatorade dump. And so I filmed it knowing that, like, I'm going to film the Gatorade dump. And I start getting my phone's blowing up. Oh, my God, what color is Gatorade? So I just put out a tweet, Gatorade is blue. And I became the identifiable source for every sportsbook, every DraftKings, FanDuel. Everyone picked it up. It racks up millions of views, and that's what they used to determine what color Gatorade was actually dumped on the coach. So that's the backstory. So BR Betting hit me up and said, you know, there's this fun narrative around Gatorade going into the week. Like, you'll be on the ground. Would you want to do stuff? I was like, it's even cooler because I have this backstory. So last night we asked Shanahan, Rashee Rice, Nick Bolton, Rashee, and like two other guys. So we have some other footage, but so we've got that. The Shanahan one went viral. I actually have a guy on Twitter who's known for nailing the Gatorade stuff. He's been DMing me, so I'll give you a little exclusive. While Shanahan's favorite color is orange, the Niners are actually a blue Gatorade team. So something to take. So essentially, if you're listening now, don't go bet orange just because Shanahan said it. That's number one. We still have 5 days of uncovering. I'm going to talk to Marlon on Thursday about how the actual mechanics of it work, right? Because, like, what cooler has what colors? Are they all the same for the team? Like, what are the odds that
they're definitely dumping POW in there too? They're not like, it's not true.
Yeah, no, it's all
just
powder.
Yeah.
So I'm going to talk to him. I'm actually attending a Gatorade party later this week, so I'm going to get a scoop. So the whole thing is going to be funny. So I don't know how many more lines I'm going to move. I do know one thing. The problem is you can't bet it in the U.S., but I have a really good tip on the first song from Usher. It's whatever the heavy favorite is. It's down to minus 300, but that is confirmed the first song. So you can only like bet it in like Canada or offshore.
I don't even know what the heavy favorite would be. Love in this club?
It was like, I think to start. Hold on.
Okay.
I think I have the I literally, it's not a notable song. That's why I couldn't
I would think it would be Make Love in This Club or whatever. Love in This Club. That would be my guess.
That's a little too horny to open a song.
This is important, so I'm gonna get it for the people. It's Caught Up is the name of the song. So I think this looks like Bovada, but
we've got quite a few in Germany and Brazil and Australia.
It's already at minus 300, but sources would say that that's a pretty good bet.
3-1. I mean, 3-1's not that bad.
No, it's minus 300. Minus 300. Yeah. So you got to lay juice, but if you're laying juice on a lock, I mean, you know, worse things can happen. So a lot more lines to be moved.
Everybody bet that, and if it doesn't hit, tweet at Jack Settleman.
The Gatorade is blue.
Yeah.
The Gatorade is. Well, I do always wonder, like, could they change it? But I don't think so at this point.
I think they're worried about other stuff, you know? Like,
yeah. Another funny Rovell story is like, so I worked at Action Network out of college, and Rovell went and worked at Action. And like the idiot he is, I love him to death, but he's an idiot. And he literally tweeted, I'm going to the rehearsal for the national anthem, and I am not going to reveal whether it's going over or under. And everyone's like, then why the fuck are you tweeting it? Like, you're just being an asshole. Like, if you have this information, because it's crazy. I think it was Fox who was doing it that year. Like, they take your phones.
I remember this.
You're not allowed to share. It's fully under NDA. But, like, come on. Like, you're not going to tell your guys at the office, you know?
Social cues, maybe not Darren's strongest suit, I think.
Yeah.
We were actually, it's funny, we were just talking about Brock Purdy looking like Lee Harvey Oswald. Darren has a very famous moment with JFK there on the old Twitter timeline. So.
He does. And someone asked Brock last night about, you know, the girl who looks like him?
Yes.
He answered the question, which was pretty funny. For the players are definitely more aware of what we talk about on the internet than you would think they
He
are.
also had a moment with John Harbaugh where John Harbaugh was like, Brock Purdy had just suffered the most devastating loss of his career, and John Harbaugh walks in. He's just in a daze, and John Harbaugh walks up to him. People tell me we look alike.
Yeah.
His face, and Brock's just like, yeah.
John
cool.
Harbaugh and Darren Rovell, social cues. I think that's what the Ravens fans think of John Harbaugh right now.
In some moments, I'd have to agree.
It's interesting though, because the pro athletes have officially pretty much turned. Like if you're a young star, even you're Gen Z fully.
Yes.
So it's fully turned to the point where it would be rare to find someone who's not hashtag online at this point.
Yeah, like Marlon. Did you see Marlon got caught up in some shit today?
I didn't see today, no.
So you saw his tweet about Belichick not getting a job.
I saw a lot of people coming after him for that. Yeah,
he was coming after him. And then today, I guess Deion Sanders was like, "We got to teach these young kids some respect."
We had one Ed Reed commenting on that, like truth. So yeah, that was tough.
So that got picked up across the board, and then Marlon is commenting on the Instagram post like, I'm really getting killed for this. So it proves how online these guys are.
Marlon, who also famously goes dark during the season as well, and then comes out and immediately day 3 gets himself into the crosshairs. Just brilliant, absolutely brilliant.
I asked Willie Snead last night about Marlon. I was like, all right, Marlon's coming out on Thursday. I need some, dirt on him. I need a funny story. He was like, Marlon's pretty much an open book, except he with the cat. Like, does he still have Snowflake? I'm like, yeah, he still has Snowflake. So I think what we see of Marlon is kind of what we get.
Yeah. You got to give him that. He does it his way. He's like Frank Sinatra,
Do you guys have any betting lines that you need me to move in a direction so you can come in on some good? I mean, I know, Spen, you're hitting a bunch of NBA hammer plays these days, but Super Bowl wise, what are we looking at?
I mean, I haven't gone that deep yet. I'm still kind of waiting for the dust to settle on lines. I haven't seen anything early that really is I think is going to correct it. I'm sure there will be stuff. I don't know. I tend to hammer Kelsey. Like all last year, I hammered Kelsey receptions.
Yeah.
Last year, I made $5,000 off of Kelsey receptions, yards, touchdown, everything. And then I don't know. I feel like the 49ers are gonna. I can't remember what it was. What is McCaffrey's carries total? 21.5, something like that. 22.5.
Something like 20. Yeah.
Yeah. That one is interesting to me. I do like use check plays in general. I feel like he's going to be on the field more than he ever has. I feel like the 49ers are going to go the opposite of the Ravens and do nothing but run 21 personnel and start running empty out of it and just make the Chiefs try and live in base. So I like use check any play of use check. Anytime touchdown, anything use check.
Yeah.
I do like.
He was actually the most popular guy on the floor last night. So the media sessions, everyone sees.
Because of his wife and Taylor Swift. Fellow Towson alum. Shout out to Christian Juszczyk. We used to party at the Rec Room. Kristen,
he might be approaching Christian Juszczyk's husband's territory. How everyone does George Clooney's, Amal Clooney's husband. I feel like that
is 100% close for. That's why he was the most popular guy on the floor. Chase Young was not even close to Juszczyk. I'm trying to think from the Chiefs side if there was anyone, but Niners have so many stars that it was kind of easy. I easily got to talk to Brock, Fred Warner, all those guys. Chiefs, obviously the concentration of Mahomes, Kelsey, and Coach Reed are a little tougher to get to.
Yeah.
Kristen has double Kyle's followers already on Instagram.
That's amazing. I'm excited for what she's probably putting together for the game.
I know her not that well, but she was at Towson same year. One of my buddies, she's from Long Island. Is
that where they met?
They met when she went to Towson and he was young on the Ravens. I don't know exactly where they met, but maybe at Power Plant or something downtown.
He seems like a fun partier.
He was
yeah.
What's the Rec Room? What's the nightclub next to Rec Room that was really tacky? I don't know.
So it was Torrent, and then it was. In my heyday, we had Torrent Lounge, T Lounge, my sophomore year, which was, oh my God, just gas.
Yeah.
Unbelievable times there. But they met, I think, maybe my junior year or something, and she kind of just moseyed off. But from all accounts, nicest girl in the world. One of my good friends is lives in the same neighborhood as her family, grew up together, and he has nothing but nice things to say about her. So
The question is, does she make Taylor a custom getup for the game on Sunday or
Yeah.
no?
yes.
They're going against them in the Super Bowl.
No, that would be silly business. That would be
I
silly
don't
business.
know. I don't know.
If Taylor wants, Taylor gets. I mean, let's be honest here.
Yeah, of course.
This is all just so over my head. Like, just take it all away. Like, what are we doing here? Like, this fucking.
You're in your metalwood hat.
I'm not even gonna watch this
contrarian in the metalwood hat.
I'm not even gonna watch this game. I'm watching.
Yeah,
this
what
protest.
has been? I mean, obviously we did the pod with Marlo right after the game, but that's pretty much all Ravens content I've hit on.
You could probably bow out for the next couple weeks. That's
Yeah, I was gonna ask, what's it been like on the battlegrounds?
just really salty. Just a lot of salt and just spit and vinegar.
I'm a terrible person because like when they lose, I am very positive, so everybody hates it, and I like all those things. So everybody hates me. Jake's been fine. You've been fine.
Yeah, no, I am. I was
Brian's been taking it rough. Brian's shtick is also to take it rough. Pause.
Yeah.
I hope it's just a shtick for his.
Oh boy. What are you looking at? What are you most looking forward to, Jack, right now? What are you most excited about?
New Orleans. They got a New Orleans thing at Radio Row, and that's where my sights are set. Next season, Super Bowl, Ravens are there. It's been fine. It's more just like a bummer. I think everyone, like, they just didn't play a football game, and so that part is what leads to the saltiness. Like, it's almost like you're just angry at everyone. Like, why couldn't you guys just do what you did all year?
They couldn't have played their best game and then lost. I mean, like, if they had just done that, it would have been better.
In Marlon's own words, they're known as as a team, they're known as playoff chokers. I do think it gets a little over. Like, my positive spin is that if you would have said in March that the Ravens would make it to the AFC Championship game and lose to the Chiefs, I think a lot of people would have been like, all right, I'll take that.
I mean, by one score. It was a one-score loss.
It's so funny. There was so much conversation about, like, how no one expected us to be here. Maybe I'm naive, and I don't know. I feel like with Lamar and the pieces we had,
when Lamar has stayed healthy, they have never fallen short of the divisional round. It is expected for them to be in the divisional round. So
that's why I was kind of like, I don't know, is it that big a step? That's honestly my biggest angst is I really do think they choked again. That's
it feels like they just honestly, the longer away from the game we get, the more I feel clear looking at it. And it's truly just, and there's something floating around today. One of the guys that does analytics at ESPN, and Seth, whatever his name is, Seth Burke, something like that, said that the Ravens face light boxes. According to what I checked was a little different, but it was pretty much the same. He said they had light boxes, I think 39 or 40 times, and the Ravens ran the ball 3 times by design into light boxes. Yeah. And I think that then the immediate discourse is, what the hell is Todd Monken doing? What the hell is Harbaugh doing? But at the end of the day, and I think it's total vertical failure, but that also includes Lamar too. It's not. And then what do we hear at the press conference? Harbaugh goes, oh, well, Lamar is the driver of the car, right? We put him in the position. It's his car. You drive it. I always come back to Peyton Manning, who always says offensive play calls are just suggestions.
Yeah.
Like, what you get when you're a veteran quarterback is a suggestion, not definitive. Like when what is Todd Monken paid? A couple million? Like, what is Lamar Jackson paid?
I said it will never come out, because what the hell would the organization be doing?
It would just be malpractice.
There's a real chance that Lamar was checking out of runs, because
I don't even know if it's checking out of runs, but it also, so the 2 questions I have that can't get answered are, and you have to be in the room for, could he have checked into more runs? I think yes, 1,000%, because we've seen it. He always has the veer check. We see him go to the line, change the play, and then they run quarterback counter. They run veer, run that stuff. And I just feel like, are you going to call a definitive run that doesn't have a pass check? That feels like malpractice to do as well. Yeah. Why would you not want your star franchise $250 million quarterback to not have the power to make it a run, a pass, an RPO? Right. Like, he should have all of those options. And I think it is Monken failure. I think it is Lamar failure. We don't know what the checks would have been or could have been definitively. but it just felt like the whole idea was that we are going to throw the ball on them. At the end of the day, we're going to take what they give us, and we know that they're going to give us to throw the ball, and we're going to take the cheese and play their game. And there was no angle of it that was they have to stop us. It was we're going to take what they give us instead. So
yeah, maybe the word for this one isn't as much choke as the Ravens are perennial panickers. And that's the feeling. And look, in a sense of panic, sometimes the panic is warranted, right? And I do think there was a point in the game, right, when they went down 17-7 and the Chiefs were moving the ball at halftime, like where it felt like they weren't going to need to get to 20. We were going to need to get to 30, and you weren't going to be able to do it. And to be fair, no one will ever talk about it. The Ravens ran 6 times with their running backs. They were unsuccessful on 5 of the 6 runs. Like, I know the Gus clip went viral, but like they did struggle on those few times they did run, justice for a yard, whatever. But they panicked. And I will say, if Zay doesn't fumble, right, and score, it's 17-14, it really feels like the Ravens had finally unlocked it. They would have felt comfortable. They would have had confidence in the defense. And I think we are looking at a different ball game in that sense. But then again, is Zay taunting and getting stripped part of the panic and part of just who the Ravens turn into in the playoffs? You could say it's, I don't know. Guys, we've lost the ball on the 1-yard line in 3 straight playoff defeats. What are the odds of that? Is it a sense of the team always coming up short, or is it literally you flip a coin 3 times and you've gotten unlucky 3 straight? I don't know. So I don't know.
it is almost cosmic with that, what you just said, that they've lost the ball effectively. And you're talking about the Bills pick, right?
Yeah.
Exactly. Right at the goal line, the other team in the red zone, in the deep red zone.
Yeah.
It's almost cosmic. And I agree with all of that. And I think we get into all of these conversations that get so hyperized because of that fumble. And to your point, you were reliant. Your primary guy is a rookie. Your primary number one target, your do everything in the pass game, was a rookie who played in a, I don't want to say, I mean, the Boston College is Power 5, but like, I think about like Grayson. Game. I think about Grayson Rodriguez too in the Orioles. It's like, I don't think Grayson Rodriguez ever even played in a state semifinal in high school, and then he's pitching in the playoffs. Like, of course he's gonna get a little worked up when you've never been on stage like that. It's not Kyler Murray's playing in back-to-back 6A state titles in, you know, Dallas Cowboy and Jerry World, stuff like that. So it just goes deeper and deeper and deeper. And I do think it is just cosmic at this point. Like, I feel like the Ravens are stuck in a loop of fumbling or turning the ball over in the playoffs to go down big and flipping the game and over and over and over and over. And it's maddening. And
it sucks, but it's good learnings, right? Like, it is, if you can get over it and be like, all right, you know, they got to go through this phase. Then the Titans was a phase, so they took care of Houston. And this is a phase, right? You're never going to have a team this good again, most likely. So it sucks. But, I mean, you have
to be good in a different. I feel like you have to be good in a different way. I feel like you have to.
Their depth will never be this good, but the Chiefs' depth isn't, right. Like, it's not superior.
Well, that's what I was going to say. The Chiefs aren't this on paper monster. I mean, Mahomes is, and Kelsey's a first ballot. Like, he's a first ballot among first ballots. And other than that, they're a solid squad. They've got, you know, Chris Jones, a couple guys, but the experience, the calmness, the attitude, I feel like, are things that, and that's my big brain takeaway of like oversimplifying things. The panic that you mentioned, Jack, is like, it's palatable on Harbaugh and Lamar. You can't be going fuck shit, oh my god, no, on the sideline after that. You can't. Lamar goes, that's 6, that was 6. Lamar, there's that clip, that was 6 after he gets strip sacked. Like, Mahomes doesn't do that. Mahomes goes, let's go, come on, we got to get him back, get the ball back, come on, let's go. Like,
the helmet throw was my biggest red flag. I mean, I know it should have been a pass interference, shouldn't have been thrown, all that conversation.
I think the Chiefs win despite those things, just because the Ravens were not capable of calming themselves down. It felt like the Chiefs were just like, we'll punt the ball inside the 10 3 times in a row and see what you do. Yeah. Like, it just felt like
they really did know. So whatever, hopefully they'll get over that step. So we say all that to say, what am I excited for about this game? I don't know. Like any Super Bowl, there's 2 weeks. Every storyline has been unearthed. Every matchup has been broken down. It's not the NBA Finals. If it was the NBA Finals, 7 games, I would have bet my life the Ravens were beating the Chiefs. But we knew going in, it was one game against the best player in the world, and it's exactly what happened. So one game, does Brock turn the ball over? Does, some wacky thing happen? It's impossible to make a prediction on that and feel really good about it. Like matchup-wise, the Ravens matched up beautifully with the Chiefs.
Remember when the Seahawks put up, 43-8 on the Broncos? Like, who would have thought that was happening?
Yeah, so I'm excited because I do think you're going to get a quality football game that should be close. And I think as long as Brock protects the ball, which he hasn't done in the playoffs, that the Niners will be in a good spot. But I was sitting on my floor this morning, and I like the Niners. Like, I think they're the right side in the game. But then I was like, whatever. If you pick the Chiefs and you got Mahomes in that defense, like, it's a very good pick. It's why the game is, a 2-point spread. So that's why we look for added value, like Usher's first song or the Gatorade color, because those are things that are more predictive than the game.
I mean, right now it's tough. The public money, 65% is on the Chiefs.
Yeah.
And I think like 61% is on the over, somewhere around there. So then you start getting into your wormholes of fade the public.
Right.
And then it's like, do I fade the public in the Super Bowl? All that stuff.
Yeah. So that's Vegas. I'll have more updates for you guys as time goes on, but I appreciate you having me live from Radio Row. And next year we're doing Radio Row all together in New Orleans.
I was going to say, this is our we're getting our toes in the water here. We'll be there.
Yeah,
next.
this is what you do, guys. It's visualization. Radio
Positive
Row.
visualization.
I practice the technique of positive visualization. How come I always feel undermined?
I honestly, I was like, all right, I'm at Marlins on Monday. He walks in and they just won the AFC Championship. I thought it was happening. I really did. But now we push it to New Orleans, and I'll see you guys there. Beignets, Urban, and Baltimore Ravens football.
I'll fit right in there with my last name. So
Lacroix. All right, Jack, go have the most fun.
Boys.
Go put a little on black for me. Go yell at some dealers, all that good stuff.
I got you.
Vegas, baby, Vegas. How about that little guest spot from the Settleman? Give us
that turned into a beast. He
really.
hung with us for a cool 20 some minutes there.
Love that. Live from Radio Row. Who would have thought?
There we go. Who would have thought? So positive visualization. I guess we can start backwards then. We can hop into our review, which I wanted to start with the preview of the season that we did. What were our expectations? I've gone back and listened kind of to that. I always try and go back and listen to our preview. Where was my head at in August and September? The first week of September, I usually do it. And I thought this was a team that would make the playoffs. I thought this was a team that wouldn't have a good pass rush, and that would be a question mark, and they might need to trade for a pass rusher. I thought this was a team, and I know that you did as well, thought this was a team that would take time to gel offensively, and they did. And I thought this was a team that would hit their stride later in the season against some tough opponents. They did. They didn't play a gauntlet of quarterbacks. They took care of that. I didn't think they would get the 1 seed. I thought they would maybe battle the Bengals. Joe Burrow bows out there. Who knows what happens? Bengals start 0-3. And I did think this was a team that would reach the AFC Championship and fall short of literally the Chiefs. And that's kind of where we can start, I guess, is where the season started, right? So we both thought this would be a playoff team. I think a lot of Ravens fans thought this would be a playoff team. Excited about Roquan Smith, curious to see about Odell Beckham, Zay Flowers, and kind of that whole deal. And the Ravens hop on the horn there and kind of get a little weird start off. So we can start with first things first, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, and this little off-season review brought to you by our friends at Black Eyed Susan Spices. Promo code EXIT52 for 10% off their website, blackeyedspices.com, on any product. They're also available in your Ace Hardware participating locations in Baltimore and DC suburb area Ace Hardware. So check them out. We love Black Eyed Susan Spices and promo code EXIT52, 10% off at their website. But yeah, I mean, I got it written out in chronological order here. So I figured we do acquisitions. We can kind of just grade them individually as a group, however you want to do it. But I wrote down for offseason acquisitions, they've made more, so we'll get to them. But as far as opening up the offseason, it was Nelson Aguilar basically at the opening of free agency. I remember the spot track guy having a little fun with that, which drew my ire. Odell Beckham Jr. on Masters Sunday. I remember that John Rahm was like making the turn and was, essentially locking up the Masters. And Ian Rappaport tweets that Odell Beckham Jr. has agreed to a contract with the Baltimore Ravens. And I think this is when they signed Yasin too, or was that later? Rock Yasin.
Yasin came, I think, a couple weeks out. Let's see here. Yasin signed May 3rd.
Yeah, so kind of all in the same area. So I'd say Aguilar, I'd actually give that I'd probably go B+. I really liked what they gave him. I think as far as what I'd expect from him, really, really good. And it's like as far as the
we loved the Aguilar signing.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
I think that came to fruition. He does end up dropping a ball in the playoffs there in the beginning of that game, which was kind of shitty, but we know Aguilar does that.
Yeah, he had a touchdown in the game. He had a few drops throughout the year, but it's like you expect that from any receiver. And just because he's Aguilar and he's had the meme, like people are going to zero in on him. But I don't know, really good season. I think there's a little bit of a ceiling as far as what he can do. So I'd probably put that ceiling at a B+ and I'd give it to him. Yeah, that's probably what I'd give him. What would you give him?
For what he is, I think it went about as well as it could have for the money. I think it went pretty darn well. So I'll go with like an A-. It was cheap when they needed a healthy veteran. He made plays and was in the game, and he blocked and he ran and he, had some nice moments, and he was signed to be like wide receiver 4, right? So I think he's a really, really good wide receiver 4, and he was $3.5 million. So I like him in the A's, starting with an A wherever you want there.
Yeah, and they basically this was the type of move that they would sign like a wide receiver 3 at best 2 type, and they'd say, all right, this is going to be our number 1 in the past. And then this year it was kind of a total philosophical change. And so, yeah, they signed him to be wide receiver 4. He's a very good wide receiver 4. They signed Odell Beckham Jr. to probably be that, X receiver, that probably, one of those rotating top guys, wide receiver 2, Zay Flowers, the other one. Obviously, we'll get to him. Beckham, I'd probably give it probably like a B- overall. I think he did basically about what I expected. I would have wanted to see a little more in the playoffs and maybe some other big games overall. There were definitely some stretches where he went silent, but you mentioned them peaking late in the season. They kind of had that whole plan set out for him as well, and they executed it pretty well overall. So for the money, it was obviously very expensive. That was a sticking point for a lot of people, and I get it. I'd go B- for Odell.
I loved the signing, and I loved the signing at moments this year. And there were early on, he looked super rusty. I just don't really get. I don't think they used him in the way that I imagined. His 2 lowest snap counts of the year, 2 of his 3 lowest snap counts of the year, aside from a Chargers game where he was super beat up, were Week 17 against the Dolphins, which is fine. They rolled over the Dolphins, whatever. And then in the divisional round, he had 8 snaps and 29 in the conference championship. So I think I'm going to give this an F.
Really?
Because I loved him. I wanted to buy his jersey at one point towards the middle of the year. Games against the Bengals, the Rams had really nice moments. I'm going to give it an F because I don't get that part of it.
He did kind of get replaced by Bateman a little bit. I think that's sort of what happened.
He did, but I still just don't get it. He didn't peak. Like it felt like all year he was going to build up snaps and play more and more and more. Against the Rams, he has a great game against his former team. Maybe the best game he had, 97 yards in that touchdown, had some pretty filthy double moves, things like that. And I don't know, maybe the health starts to waver. He doesn't play 30 snaps in a game again. Goes under 20 against the Jags, 15 against the Dolphins, 8 against the Texans. And then, I don't know, it felt like against the Chiefs. I have to look at it exactly again, but I think he played a lot more in the second half than he did in the first half, which was weird to me. And the reason I'm going to give it an F is because he didn't peak the way I thought he did. He started to, and it started to feel right, but actually, I forget. The reason I was going to give it an F was because of DeAndre Hopkins, who became, I guess, available after they signed Beckham. Which was a trade. Was Hopkins traded for?
Yeah, I think he got released ultimately because it was like the whole thing was like, all right, now they got Beckham. They can actually just go and trade for Hopkins and do that, but that would be taking on the big number. Then he got released, and it's like, okay, the Ravens actually might just go and sign him. And I remember,
but to me, that says like they took the sure thing of signing Beckham instead of making a trade or instead of playing the bidding game. But I think Hopkins is just so much better regardless. Like, they had to have talked to somebody about, they had to have talked to the Titans about Hopkins.
Yeah, it was Pac-Man was on, Pac-Man was on McAfee, like for multiple times saying like, there's a strong possibility that DeAndre Hopkins to the Ravens is going to happen. Like he said that multiple times. And this was when he was on the Cardinals. So I think it was definitely percolating. And Jack actually was one of the people who was saying that it could happen. And yeah, ultimately it didn't. And, they settled for Beckham. And yeah, I think Hopkins would have been the better move. But I also like the Beckham signing, and we'll get to the Lamar thing, but I think that kind of was a big catalyst for Lamar re-signing here. So if they wait.
Well, he pretty much said he wanted Hopkins or Beckham.
Or both. Yeah. But like that was the thing. Like if they wait and they're like, all right, we're just going to push all our chips in on Hopkins. Let's say you don't get him or like whatever happens and then you don't re-sign Lamar before draft day. I don't know, like weird timing stuff. So I kind of, it was
nuanced in ways for sure, but it just felt like they were in the conversations. They were in on him. He is obviously healthier than Beckham. And like I said, I just feel like because Beckham didn't peak in the postseason, like I thought, and going into it really, it was weird. And Hopkins still is very good. And it feels like what Hopkins brings is what they needed so badly, so that, like we just said with Jack, you don't have Flowers as your number one guy, and Flowers was awesome, but then clearly wasn't, he's a rookie. So he did dive into the end zone when he shouldn't have, and was getting personal fouls in the playoffs, which I kind of love. That I still like the taunting call. Yeah, I still like that he did that.
I don't like the fact that it's a fucking foul. I think it's stupid. And these guys,
if you're going to call a foul for taunting, that was a one to throw a flag on for sure.
Yeah, but I hate it as a penalty.
I like it. Spin it on them. Fuck them. And then he basically, if he would have just ran into the end zone or been down at the one and they score, that would have been one of the sickest drives ever of any rookie wide receiver ever. And it was just that close. But I am weirded out. I do get that, you look at Beckham in a prism of, and I don't want to even give it an F. We're going to go with the pass fail instead of a letter grade on this for me. And I'm giving it a fail because I do think Hopkins was such a better option in hindsight if you couldn't get Beckham to where they needed him to be, and he kind of wasn't there. So I don't know. It's nuanced. I loved that I would prefer that they signed him over that they didn't. I do like the signing still, but
it was a good faith move. It was a good faith move that was needed for Lamar and for the fan base too. Like people were fucking pissed about the wide receiver position last offseason. I mean, they had been for multiple seasons in a row. We're talking about Hopkins. You know what they should have fucking done is sign DeAndre Hopkins 5 years ago. They should have traded for him when the Texans were trading him. Like this was the move that they should have made. And Beckham is like,
there's something weird about Hopkins. He is, I don't know. I think he is of the Michael Irvin, like true alpha, Des Bryant. I'm saying a lot of Cowboys. Like, I think he is of the mindset of like, if I don't get the ball, I will blow this fucking locker room up. Doesn't care. He has that dark matter in him. And Beckham was a much more spiritual signing. It was a more locker room signing.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's a good faith move for Lamar, for the fan base, and it's a catch-up move because they just kept putting themselves in this hole with this position over and over again, and that's why you have to go and overpay for a guy like that now. I think the pendulum is starting to swing back the other way, and they're not going to have to put themselves in this position. So they do it, they make the move. You give it the failing grade there on the pass-fail scale. I give it a B-, whatever. We'll see if he's back with the team. Maybe. Sounds like he's open to it. I don't know if I'd prefer it. I'd probably prefer Aguilar personally, but we'll get into that next week. We're doing a full off-season preview. So
yeah, so I think that's an interesting conversation there, and there's levels and layers and the complexities, and that's just the tip of the iceberg of what goes into this shit. And at the end of the day, we don't know the guys. That's such a different part. The draft process, all this stuff, we don't know the guys. I can watch his tape. I don't know the guy. I don't know the character. I don't know the hidden stuff that got swept under the carpet or the stuff that got kind of just pushed into the background while he's a great guy. Somebody can be a great person and you just don't know that. You can be the hardest worker ever. And, everybody always says everyone's the hardest worker ever, but you don't know until you know and you have that access. So those are the things that matter. And I think that was what was known about Beckham, that he was at a good point and all those things. So It's a fun conversation. It's kind of a big brain one, but I don't know. It's interesting, and it was an interesting signing overall.
Yeah, I never would have thought that guy would come to a place like this. I said that when they were trying to sign him.
Yeah, who would have thought 7 years ago Odell Beckham would be in Baltimore in 2023? I
wouldn't have thought it a year ago. I thought that, like, after being in Cleveland and all that stuff, I thought he was just done with small towns. He wanted to go to Dallas or whatever and be famous. But good credit to him. I love him as a guy. I mean, like, it didn't totally work out.
The Ravens had to they had to bid above. They had to pay for that though. Still, they had to pay a premium to get him to do it. And the as more time goes on, it feels like there's no hometown discounts in the globalized football in 2024.
That's out. That's never happening again. Rock Ya-Sin, we don't have to spend a ton of time on this. I'd give it a D-. He made one nice
weird thing happened where he was built up to be this like savior of the corner room while he was like a scheme specific corner that had some injury problems. I remember like tweeting and saying this, like, I think the Ravens fan base has started to greatly overhype Rock Ya-Sin. He's all right. And pretty much didn't play.
Yeah, he made one nice play on T. Higgins.
I give it a C. He was there. He was experienced. He was fine. He was there if they needed him, but they had Darby. Darby ended up emerging over him, and that's why I think Ya-Sin is fine, because they doubled down. We'll bring in two. We'll bring in another one. We'll bring in Darby as well to Ya-Sin, and maybe they bring in Darby because they didn't like what they saw out of Ya-Sin and things like that. But it was fine.
Darby's going to be, I've got a summer signings category, so we'll get to that one right after all this. And I guess right before Rock Ya-Sin re-signed Lamar Jackson on draft day, A+, absolute A++. And really it's what I don't want people to lose sight of here. I know people are pissed right now. I certainly am too, but things were so bad with this franchise as far as just the way that the fan base was feeling and just the black cloud we keep saying was hanging over them. And they finally cleared it with this thing. I think the Beckham move was part of that. I think two sides came together, and shout out to Jalen Hurts and his agent for getting that deal done, because I do think that was another catalyst too. So Lamar Jackson re-signing on draft day. What a banner day that was. Draft day. We come back, we record the live stream. What a fun time.
That was a great day. That was a big deal. That was a momentous signing in the history of the Ravens. A++ as well. For what Deshaun Watson's monkey wrench threw in, I feel like is truly part of the reason why that got to the point that it did. Speaking of things that we don't know, it felt like everything that the Ravens and Lamar Jackson did was clearly communicated. And I do feel like maybe years later, we will get something to the tune of that. Even the Ravens went as far as to say, hey, we won't use the franchise tag. We'll let you go talk to other teams if you want, because that was how much they loved him, right? That was, we'll match anything. If you like something better, we'll do everything we can to match it. And if you love us, we love you. And I thought that was really cool, that transition tag deal, to allow him to have a little bit of a free agency. It was kind of like a little mini free agency. It was, go check out the other side of the grass and see what's out there and talk around and see and think about it. And
if you really love something, let it go.
Yeah, kind of. It was, it was not being a jealous lover, right? It was saying, okay, well, if you don't, love me, I'll still be here. And if you need some time and space to go check yourself out, go ahead, and we'll be here. We'll match whatever. We'll do the best thing we can. And I feel like that was really cool and unique. It was something we hadn't seen before in the NFL, really, that degree of a free agent. And at the same time, we can go on that for hours about that deserves its own, Jack said 60 for 60 by accident. I would say like a 15 for 15 on Lamar Jackson's contract, a mini sewed on that, because then everybody starts coming out saying, no, we're good. And the collusion aspect that maybe not happened. And I tend to think kind of was.
I was going to say, with all the talk about him getting his free agency period and stuff, it didn't really happen that way.
Yeah, but it was he was then sure that nobody was leaping to give him the Watson deal though, right?
Right, yeah.
The Ravens were like, look, you think we're underselling you? We're not. We're giving you the best.
And Eric,
the best is everything after Watson.
And really, going back through it all and just really thinking about it again, what a freaking high wire act this was for DeCosta. This was one of the more difficult negotiations across all of NFL history, and he pulled it off perfectly well with that transition tag, to your point. A++. And
to have the kind of, what's the right word? The cool hand Louque aspect of the nerves of the national media just just
they were
laying into you as an organization and a GM and a coach and an owner and a team and nonstop fans, media beating you down and beating you down and beating you down. So to have that steely resolve is what I was probably looking for in my brain.
Yeah.
Having that resolve to be able to just calmly and quietly and safely continue forward, I think you got to be pretty impressed in analysis of Eric DaCosta's cojones and resolve in that regard.
And Lamar texts him the night of, I think we can get a deal done. And the Celtics had just like taken like a game-winning bucket at the buzzer. And he's like, Lamar, you just saved my night. Just a cool story all around. And man, you got to give the guy a ton of credit. Like if you had told me like at this time last year, and I keep saying that a lot, but like if you told me like early February 2023, like the Ravens are going to re-sign Lamar Jackson to this 6-year deal and they're going to go to the AFC Championship game, like I would have signed up for that. That would have been gravy to me. I just wanted them to re-sign him. And then he goes out there. And in my opinion, I know people look back at 2019. I think this was the best season of his career. I think it's a credit to them for building around him in the right way, all the way finally. And obviously, that it's all amazing. So yeah, I mean, we can, I didn't really write this down, but we could probably touch on Todd Monken too. Thoughts on Todd Monken before we get into the rest of the summer signings?
Love. Thought that once, the two guys we looked at, I looked at Louque first, right? I made that little sign, Louque to Baltimore, 2023, whatever it was. And after that was my number 2 choice, right? That was the name we immediately jumped to, Monken. And of available guys, he was someone that was malleable in understanding how to utilize his offense and his talent and things like that. What happened in the game, I do think the playoff game leaves that bitter taste at the end. But I think you look back and you look at a coordinator that was so down to earth and unafraid of being wrong or unafraid of putting the offense in forced growth positions where the early bumps were needed and they didn't coddle it and they didn't, go back into some of their older ways. They did a little bit at times, but to kind of unlock in that second half and start to spread things out more, use a little bit more of the 11, mix it up. And also be unabashedly unafraid to go back into, all right, we can pound the fucking rock.
Yeah.
And I know people are going to scoff at that because, whatever, they lost in the playoffs, boo fucking who. But it was fun to watch this season, and they peaked at the right time. They peaked against the Dolphins and against the 49ers, and, they go put up a bunch of points on the Rams and all those teams that kind of gauntlet. That Jaguars game I thought was cool too, where they were kind of like the Texans game in the playoffs. They were not moving the ball well. They were not able to figure it out and then kind of dug themselves out. So I thought they were able to adjust so often out of it. And I think that it was great for Lamar. We saw Lamar in a more Josh Allen-like offense, right? Where there is some of the power elements, there is some of the spread elements, and it's very quarterback-centric in many, 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 many ways. So I think that leads up to year 2 of Monken beautifully. And to have a lot of those key guys, you think of Linderbaum, you think of Lamar Jackson, you think of Mark Andrews, Isaiah Likely, Zay Flowers, Morgan Moses still there. We'll see what happens with the Zeitler, and Andrews is still there, Kohler's still there. We'll see about Ricard, Bateman coming back. So getting to flip the page and now being able to compare notes to what you've already done. When you look at game tape and look at things you want to improve, when you look at this is what we did, this is how it looked for us with Lamar. It's a lot easier to start out at a way higher point and push way deeper, way faster, and start to really build those wrinkles in year 2. So I'm really excited for that. I thought this was an awesome hire. I think a lot of people scoffed at the fact that Harbaugh basically was like, I didn't fucking know this guy, and my brother-in-law told me he was awesome, so I, kind of ended up hiring him because of that. But I don't know. I love the hire as well. I think it was a slam dunk because it was such an external hire. There was nothing linking here.
Yeah, right. And people were bitching about the old Harbaugh boys club, and is he just going to bring another one of those guys in? And I think people tried to make that connection because of Joni and Tom Crean, and like, hey, you guys are off base if you're trying to do that. This was, I think, John went outside the box a little bit on this one, and he knocked it out of the park. And I liked Roman on a personal level. I thought he seemed like a nice guy, but there was a little bit of a slick nature with Roman, where I don't know if you're always getting fully what he thinks. I think Todd is just an open book, and he's just a fucking joy to listen to behind the mic. So I like that too. I'd give it an A. letter grade. A little disappointing in the playoff there. Not even in the full playoffs. I thought that Texans game was impressive with how they came out in the second half. But yeah, a little disappointing with that Chiefs game. But overall, I'd give it an A. Excited for the future of this offense under him. Draft. So you got Zay Flowers, Tavius Robinson, and Keaton Mitchell were the guys I wrote in as kind of your real contributors. And then Trenton Simpson, Salah, however you say his full name, and then Andrew Voorhees, and kind of how they project. Your thoughts on this draft, and give me a letter grade.
I look at just Flowers. I mean, they needed to add one piece. They go draft a receiver, and I can get into my whole thoughts on Flowers, who I thought I was super early on him being like maybe a high second round pick, and then he ends up going in the first and getting all this buzz. And I think it did take a little bit of courage, and it worked out smoothly because say what you want, say whatever you want. I will liken him to Hollywood. I very much will. And I think that what they wanted in Hollywood, Zay Flowers is physically and able to be a threat after the catch and use as a gadget and downfield and run real NFL routes. So they only had one pick in the first 3 rounds. That makes me think of this draft very highly. I thought Zay Flowers was awesome and fantastic and really good this year. I mean, his low moment was like scoring a touchdown, but he reached out.
Yeah.
Kind of, you think of like, like Marcus Williams, you think of what happened to him.
Really, like people fault him for that. That was an amazing punch out. And it's funny. It reminds me a lot of the Owe punch out on Edwards-Helaire like 2 years ago when they did beat the Chiefs. And it's like, man, shit can just kind of happen in games like that. And like, that is the razor thin margin. And I'm not going to excuse it.
Snead went punch first too. He wisely did not try to tackle. It was too late. And, we can go look at it and freeze frame it and slow-mo it.
Screenshot Twitter has been having their moments last.
Why didn't he dive lower? Why didn't he, and I agree. Like, sure, don't extend for the pylon when you don't need to. It's not the defining play. Sure, we can summarize it with that, but it was a remarkable punch out as well. It was a sick play made by L'Jarius Sneed, who is a badass football player. So I don't know, like Zay Flowers, elite. Whatever else is whatever. Simpson will probably, we get the feeling, the sentiment is that Patrick Queen's gone. They're going to give Trenton Simpson a chance, probably. If they don't like what they see from him early, then, maybe a vet's in or they draft somebody else.
Yeah, they'll sign Josh Bynes on September 28th and just keep it rolling.
Yeah, so we'll see.
And now retire Josh Bynes will come off the couch.
In my opinion, you don't really grade 4th round picks. Like,
overall haul, I'd give it like A minus, just because like you talk about getting a starter in every draft. If you can get one, that's a pretty good hit rate.
If you get an impact player, which I think Zay Flowers is and will be, then it's a good draft. If you get a high impact player as a rookie, that is a good draft.
And they got two. Keaton Mitchell was a home run threat that they desperately needed. They finally got him, and then obviously they lose him. But man, that's exciting for the future.
That was bullshit that he got hurt. That sucked. That was
tough.
Huge bullshit.
Them's the breaks. It's the rub of the green.
And I think anything else you get, Voorhees, we'll see, whatever, Salah, whatever. I don't really care. If you miss in the 5th round, I don't care. I literally don't care.
Yeah, it's a flyer. So yeah, A minus for me on that. Summer signings, I kind of lumped all these together as well. You land Arthur Millette on July 25th. Love that move. Ronald Darby and Jadeveon Clowney on the same day there on August 18th. And then Kyle Van Noy. Actually, that's technically not the summer. That's after the solstice, but on September 27th. Overall,
just after the solstice, after.
Overall thoughts on this group?
150 out of 100, right? Darby comes in, plays good football for you consistently when you need him to with Marlon Humphrey out. Millette is a weapon, is a great slot blitzer, was felt as a presence, made sticky plays, had some big time moments in coverage. Unfortunately, ends up, the Chiefs wisely, Patrick Mahomes recognizes he has a 6'3", deer lined up with a 5'10" slot corner. And, it's the same thing as Todd Monken, where it's like, great, last thing of the year, awful.
Yeah.
I don't blame him though. That's not in his wheelhouse to be able to cover someone like that in that situation. So you just got to tip your cap to the Chiefs there. Clowney, another guy, like Clowney feels like the DeAndre Hopkins thing, but it happened.
Yeah.
They should have signed Clowney years ago. Was always best suited here. I've beat that drum as long as we've done this podcast. Who should they sign an outside linebacker? Jadeveon Clowney. Love that. Van Noy was elite. Same kind of deal again. Why are you the 3-time Super Bowl champion Why did you get a 15-yard penalty in a playoff game for being a jerk? Why are you doing that? I don't know, but elite all year, awesome all year, banner year for him in some ways. So many ways. So that group, elite, all of those individual signings turned out fantastically on a production level, on a kind of just vibe level. I think they all fit into the locker room well as two, and it's tough, but you will also notice those are all defensive guys because it's easier to pick up and play defense.
Yeah.
So I thought that was cool. I thought that was edgy. I thought that was a nice preview of, again, that's another example of DaCosta having steely resolve, right? Where, you needed some pass rushers. And that kind of is a dangerous game to play because I don't know that you can always get a Jadeveon Clowney and Kyle Van Noy in, September, but it was as good as it could have turned out. That group is all of them made a bunch of plays. So Clowney has a borderline career year here. So does Van Noy. Millette probably has a career year here. And I don't know that you could have gotten any better out of that group. And it was needed and it was there and they got it.
Yeah, I'd just go A+. I mean, you don't want to overstate things necessarily, but you really can't with this group. I mean, you had two guys approaching double-digit sacks, and obviously Darby and then Millette making huge contributions there on the back end. So, yeah, and really what I hope is that they take this as a lesson to just don't be afraid to stack guys. Don't be afraid to fill gaps with free agents like this. Don't you have the Bill Parcells ism about progress stoppers and why do you have all these old vets in the mix? I feel like the Ravens at times in the past are too dependent on the idea that, oh, well, we got this guy in our farm system, so to speak, and we're going to have him come up and we're going to let him make mistakes and everything. And I think that's okay in certain years, but this was a year to go for it. And they really went for it. They made those two signings at corner, three really with Yasin. They made those moves at outside linebacker. Van Noy, I remember when they signed Clowney, it was like, okay, well, I guess they chose him over Van Noy. They said, no, we're just going to stack these guys. And that's going to be, those are going to be big moves that we make. And obviously they wound up being huge. So I hope they do take that as a lesson when they do kind of feel like it's that type of year. Don't be afraid to go out and even if you have to spend on the credit card a little bit, go and do that and make those type of moves because it leads them to a 13-4 record and the AFC Championship. So huge,
massive.
Season overall. How would you grade it? I'd go with just an A. It sucks the way that they lost to the Chiefs, obviously, but I really don't want to gloss over that Texans game. I think that was an impressive playoff win where they came out a little flat. It looked like maybe that panic was kind of bubbling up a little bit, but they settled down. I wish they had done it the next week. Obviously, it didn't totally work out that way, but again, them's the breaks. I'd go with an A for the 2023 season.
Pass. I'm going to go pass fail here, and I say pass with flying colors. I think that, again, you look at where the organization was, what it took to get back to having Lamar Jackson on the field, keeping your franchise quarterback, pass. Keeping him healthy, pass. Keeping a lot of guys healthy, pass. Doing what you should have done against lesser opponents all year long, pass. Winning big games, pass. Winning a home playoff game, pass. And I don't know. I think, again, the boulder, the very heavy elephant-sized boulder was pushed up the hill another foot. You've had 3 years of healthy Lamar Jackson, and the first two, you went to the divisional round. The third time, you went to the AFC Championship and ball didn't bounce your way. So now you have the bitter taste of defeat, which in my knowledge of this franchise has been a good thing. And I've talked so much about scar tissue, and I thought they might have had enough, and I was an idiot. I mean, the 2000 Ravens didn't have any. They maybe had the scar tissue of Browns past, maybe you can say, if you want to get a little spiritual about it.
I think they didn't know what they didn't know, that group. They just, it was just a perfect.
It was a different sport too.
Yeah,
and they played a game that was crazy in terms of free agency and physicality, that they bought into the height of the NFL in terms of physicality to the nth degree and didn't give a shit about, high flying, which was funny. They brought in a high flying coordinator to become head coach and turned into the shit kickers, which you've documented well, but that was weird. 2012, you had to basically, True Detective right now, spoiler, skip ahead about 30 seconds if you don't want. They've basically scratched their own, they have to scratch their own corneas out and bite themselves and freeze to death. And, went through the grinder. Troy Polamalu pick 6. Billy Cundiff, even putting in that 2006 loss, if you want to go back that far. Tons and tons and tons of scar tissue there. And we're able to go get there. And now this team can look at Lamar pick 6, Titans, running the ball down your throat and trying to flounder back into that one. And now this Chiefs loss that felt so bitter. But at the end of the day, you're going to have to go a little deeper, a little harder. And honestly, the thing that I hated about this playoff run was that they did get the Texans at home in the divisional round, which, I mean, that was a fucking softball.
Yeah.
In a conference,
they deserved one after at least the fans did. I think they, a nice little meatball down the middle there. I am happy to have gotten that. They should have done, and I don't want to discredit them. I do love that they did what they needed to do. The Texans were a solid team, but you got a rookie quarterback and a rookie head coach on the road in their first playoff, road game. You should have beat the crap out of them. So ultimately, push the mountain, push the boulder up the mountain a little bit further again. But, you think back Steelers, you think back Colts in, what was that, 2010, when they just stepped on the Ravens' necks. You think of Steelers again, 24-31, I think. And then you get Billy Cundiff, Lee Evans. So scar tissue's there. You know what it takes to get there. Now you know what it takes to maybe not piss down your leg. And can you shake that with John Harbaugh? A lot of people don't think so. And if Harbaugh, you want to play into the whole hatred doubt thing, there you go. You somehow managed to be a 14-3 team with a chip on your shoulder. So that is supposed to play to your tune, right? Yep. Wake up and the sun's going to come out the next morning and you just get back at it. So yeah, overall good season. And this was a good review. A couple of housekeeping notes before we go. We wanted to talk a little bit about Zach Orr being hired as the defensive coordinator. This was him at his media availability today, talking about the philosophy that he is going to bring to the group.
One of the best defenses in the league. Obviously, you want to leave your own fingerprint. What type of identity do you want this defense to have?
Man, I want our defense to play together first and foremost, like 11 people playing as one. Let's start there. The next thing, I want to be violent, very violent, physical. That's just the standard here, man. Everything we're going to do is going to be with physicality and violence, all right? And then just executing at a high level, executing in certain situations, executing all the time. And then the last thing I'll leave you with is just, I would say, organized chaos, man. Present a lot of problems to the offense. All right, never give the answer to the offense before the snap. But that's what I would say, man. Identity, first thing first, is hit everything that moves. We're going to play violent. We're going to play together, and we're going to execute.
Very impressive. I love the fit. First and foremost, they throw in the blazer, the sport coat over the T-shirt. Always a great move for a young guy like that. You mentioned the all rights that he's peppering in there. It's some McDonald vibes with the okay, we're going to do this. Okay, he's doing the all right. He's tending towards that. I like that a lot. 31 years old, man. He's not that much older than us. It's pretty wild that Zachary Orr, he's going to a press conference at this time, 6-7 years ago, and a certain person is reporting that it's a contract extension. Turns out that it's not. It is his retirement, and now here we are. He's the defensive coordinator. Opening thoughts. We got another soundbite from him, but opening thoughts on this presser.
Yeah, love the all rights. That's the thing that stuck out to me. And I think that is the keynote of any great coach, is that tick, that all right. We're going to do this, all right. This is the way we're going to play, all right. When it's time for the rubber to meet the road, all right, we're going to hit the road, all right. So those I love, and that's what I loved about Mike Macdonald. I don't know what it is. I would love to go into a deep dive of the psychology of it, especially the I from Saban and the all right, and a couple other coaches that have had that in them. But there's something weird about that makes me feel super confident. You love the fact that he did go abroad and came back, did go to Jacksonville for a bit with Cullen, and Mike Macdonald brings him back. You do love that he says, I bleed purple and black. That's why he wanted to return to the Ravens, despite maybe becoming like Mike Macdonald's defensive coordinator, maybe the Packers.
I've actually, I've got that here too, if you want to listen to that now.
Yeah, go for it.
Zach, in ways, how much you enjoyed coaching and when you got back involved, did that help you avoid any kind of lingering kind of disappointment to, the way your playing career ended?
It did, man. It did. And that's why I tell people all the time, man, I bleed purple and black. Like, this organization, this means something to me. This means a little more to me. It's not just me just coaching for in the National Football League, just for any other organization. Now I'm coaching for the organization that had my back. Like when I went through what I went through, they didn't allow me to really put my head down. I didn't know what the next step was going to be. Boom, Coach Harbaugh, Ozzie, Mr. Bisciotti, they called me. They say, hey, I know you want to get into coaching. You're coming right back up here and getting ready to work with us. And them doing that for me just shows that they had my back in a tough situation. So they're going to get everything I got, out of me. And like I said, it means something. I bleed purple and black.
Because your comfortability.
Yeah, and I think the overall, like the hand wringing, and I was certainly a little bit of a part of it, of losing McDonald, sticking with this regime and everything with John. I totally understand some of the frustrations, and you just feel like you're spinning your wheels, and kind of the buzzword about not being able to get over the hump, or like the message growing stale, X, Y, and Z. I think it does speak to a certain consistency that I think is very admirable, and it shows in hires like McDonald and in a hire like this, who speaks back to the faith that they had in him. And he talked actually in the press conference. I don't have that part of it, but he talked about how Bisciotti picked up the phone and called him when he retired, and he had gotten a bonus check in the mail, and Bisciotti kind of quipped to him that, you got yourself a nice little parting gift there. And that's kind of cool that Bisciotti's like, he doesn't meddle, but he is dialed in on stuff like that. And it shows that he cares a lot. And yeah, he was effusive in his praises of him and Ozzie and John. So for as much as there is kind of the feeling of, if they're spinning their wheels, how much longer is Harbaugh going to be here? I think it is a credit to him that guys like this come back into the picture, and they kind of keep that wheel moving. And there is always going to be talent in this pipeline, this coaching pipeline, no matter what. And I think it's a credit to the front office, to the ownership, and to John ultimately.
It is, and you're fired up for someone like that to get that opportunity. When you go look back at his time in Baltimore and the kind of video of him, surmising his career and don't feel bad for me. And even just the fact that he mentions, I was a part of the first Ravens team that beat the Pittsburgh Steelers in the playoffs. And you can tell that as an undrafted free agent, as the son of a former NFL player who has two brothers that are both, one played at TCU, one played at Wisconsin. He's got uncles that were in the league, all kinds of stuff, football through and through. He bleeds football. He understands what it takes. He's thoroughbred football mind. And it means more to him, right? It has that sort of raise up the goose pimples on the back of your neck, raise the hairs on the back of your neck feeling of it feels right. It feels like it was in the stars for him, that he had a greater purpose to help more people, and that he does take it as serious as death. You love that he did get to be around Mike Macdonald, that he was Mike Macdonald's guy. You love the intelligence that he used to play with. You love the intelligence that he presents himself with, the way he's eloquent, concise, well thought, and well thought of by Roquan Smith, by Patrick Queen, the way they talk about him. And you feel like it just instills confidence in the next era of Ravens football, which is a smarter kind of defense that's ready to deal with the problems that modern offenses present and how they're heavy up the spine, which is ironic because that was what ended Orr's playing career, right? The spine, a C1 vertebrae, which could have exploded at any time if he was hit the wrong way, which made him have to retire and all that he went through. And you have to give a guy credit who has been able to climb that quickly, that confidently and strongly. I mean, being a coach is not the same as being a player. It is nothing of the same. Players get told what to do. Coaches are the ones that have to decide what players do.
And he said, Ozzie told him, like, hey, the hours are going to be a lot different here. So, we better see you at X.
You live there. The facility is your home. You just posted the Kevin, what's his name? Van Valkenburg. Is that his name?
Mm-hmm.
Kevin Van Valkenburg article where Harbaugh is talking about, I don't go home because that time I spend in the car is a waste. I could get that extra sleep here, or that is extra minutes I can dedicate to the craft here. So it is. And to be able to flip that switch shows you, he does love it. And man, I mean, it's got to be tough financially, right? You're an all-pro linebacker with the Baltimore Ravens. You're thinking, hey, I'm getting 40 mil somewhere soon. And then you go to getting, your bonus check from Mr. Bisciotti, which is very nice, but is not going to be 40 mil. It's not going to be, tens of millions of dollars in that bank account.
It was like a $400K like player bonus. Yeah, that's
oh, you're just saying it was a bonus that he got for playing.
It was like a bonus, probably an incentive for like games played or something like that. It was literally
UDFAs always get those can't think of the right term. There's a pool of money and it goes out to players that should have been paid more based on their play. I can't think of the right term, but that's huge for him. And now he's probably making, $1 or $2 again, back up, and has the opportunity. And I love that aspect of it. I love the fact that he's a young, and it's, he did have a dad in the league and he was around a football family, but he wasn't a coach's son. He was a player's son. And to be able to flip that switch kind of gives you that self-made vibe from, an area where a lot of people would squander and maybe turn to drugs, alcohol, painkillers, shit like that. When, you have those opportunities and all that stuff, a lot of people end up being out of football, can't stand football, don't want to be around football ever again. And instead, he picks himself up, walks in and becomes a coach and spends his time at the facility and loves it. You can tell he just loves it. And I'll say, I think he's the next head coach of the Baltimore Ravens. I think he is. I think, Harbaugh, his contract has 2 more years, this year and next. And I think through 2025, if I'm not mistaken. So 1 more year after this one. And I think he's the next coach of the Baltimore Ravens. I think you get the Mike Macdonald. He got to be around Mike Macdonald, see Mike Macdonald. He's a little younger here. He's, I think it'll be really cool. The Ravens had Ozzie Newsome as, kind of the standalone almost black general manager in the league. And I think it'll be really cool to see the Ravens transition to being, under a black head coach that was a former player that went through what Orr went through. So I love it. I'm excited for it. It does stink to watch Mike Macdonald go, but you're with a disciple of Mike Macdonald now. So it's a good thing.
Yeah, I don't think they could have done much better, save for Anthony Weaver, and we can transition now into some housekeeping notes. He has been hired away as the defensive coordinator of the Dolphins, so he's not going to be in that assistant head coach role. They were in talks with Jerry Rossberg in a weird situation. It's why I posted that article, and what caused a whole kind of shitstorm on Twitter about what does John Harbaugh do and this and that, because they were going to bring him in this in-game management advisory type role, which is something kind of, I guess, similar to what he was doing when he was here to an extent. He was a special teams coordinator, but he did kind of help out in situations like that. I think he probably was the architect of that Sam Cook intentional safety in the Super Bowl. So that was weird. That kind of drew people's ire a little bit. And you have Weaver leaving. You have other guys getting hired away. Today they hired Doug Mallory from Michigan, who was working under Jesse Minter. He'll be the defensive backs coach. So they've got some work to fill out this coaching staff here. It's been a little bit of a weird transitional period. We'll see how they fully fill it out. Zach actually mentioned that in his press availability, that's kind of the next step on the job for him, is filling that staff out. But yeah, overall, it was a good vibe check a little bit. I think people were down in the dumps. If you're feeling that way, I get it, but I'd recommend going and listening to that full thing, because it was a good vibes, a good full circle moment there for Zach Orr. And you could be right about him being the next head coach. Who knows what the future holds for John? Who knows what the future holds in these next couple seasons? That Lamar is going to get a little bit more expensive, and we'll see what happens. But yeah, if that is the succession plan, I'd expect it to be a pretty good one based upon what I heard today.
Yeah, I'm excited for it. Anthony Weaver's a little bit weird. He kind of has been. I had a Dolphins podcast reach out to me, wanted to do an interview, and I couldn't do it. But they asked me the question, do you think it's weird that, he was passed on by the Ravens? And I do think it's kind of weird. They talk very highly of him. Harbaugh did say at a press conference just last week that he, as I get a little ding dong here,
you're just getting blown.
I'm getting bombarded by my mom now, who's at the front door here, and I'm trying to call her, I'm trying to text her, but Weaver gets passed on twice and is not able to, get a job here or move up here. And I think it's a little strange. He was in the running last time. He was in the running this time. They pass on Weaver for Macdonald. They pass on Weaver for Orr as well.
Okay. Well, with all that, I guess we can close it out as Spenny is collecting tutu from his mom there. Thank you guys, as always, for listening to this episode. Fun little impromptu jump in from the Settleman there. That was a fun little segment. Fun to go back over the season. Once again, I'll say we're kind of closing the book on it now. We're going to move forward into offseason stuff next week. But I will say my favorite Ravens season in a very long time. And thankful that I got to watch it, because there was no guarantee that it was going to be anything close to this, like I keep saying, a year ago at this time, even less than a year ago at this time. So those are my closing thoughts. Any from you as we get out of here?
I mean, that 49ers game on Christmas, it wasn't, making a Super Bowl, but that was one of the most special games I can remember in years. I think of that game more fondly than I think of them beating the Texans. The big bad Niners that are, all the narratives, all this, that, and the other, who end up playing in the Super Bowl. So you feel good about that team that was able to do that to a team like that in a moment like that. It was a regular season game, so, it's not that important. And even at the time we were saying, hey, this game doesn't even really matter, but it feels like it matters more than any other game. So moments like that. They do it to the Dolphins too. Those were great. There was a ton of great moments this season, and unfortunately the Ravens do fall short, but this is what people wanted. I mean, what was the narrative? Hey, they better make it to an AFC conference championship, right? Then they get there and then everybody's pissed again. So just what's the point? That's just, that's just the world we live in, I guess. And recency bias and all of those quick, easy things. But I think this was a special team. I think this was a memorable season. I'll remember this team. I'll remember this Lamar Jackson situation, the uncertainty leading into this year, turning into such a good team that made such a good run. And I had a lot of fun this year. We did Exit 52 together this year. We switched our platform and did all of that. So I think of this year fondly in that sense as well. We appreciate all of you guys. If you're still hanging out with us about an hour and 25 minutes in here, we love you. And we're happy to continue rolling. I think we planned on doing a off-season preview next week, which will be fun. And we love the off-season. The off-season's fun. That's where it's kind of like Madden, right? You get to do the mock drafts. You get to do the free agency. You can sign this, that, and the other, debate the philosophical, and kind of debate yourself. So it's fun. We had a ton of fun. I loved it. I love this season. And I do think the Ravens will come out of the AFC next year. I do think it's time. I think the stars align, and they do have enough scar tissue to go forward.
Absolutely. All right. Well, thank you guys for listening. Like you said, hour and a half in. Very much appreciate all of the engagement. Drop a comment, drop a like, drop a subscribe button. Get that algorithm pumping for us on YouTube. Approaching 2,000 subscribers. So let's keep that rolling. You can find us on social media at Exit 52 Podcast across Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. I am at Jake Louque. That is LOUQUE. Spencer is at Ravens 4 Dummies. That is the number 4 in the middle. Brian is at Barstool Banks. Taylor at Taylor Smythe 10. Eric at EDI TTI 22. And get yourself some tailgate tickets. Do it now while they're hot. Say hello to Lisa there as she's popping in. Lisa, any words for the folks here before we get out?
Oh, there's always next year.
There's always next year. Very well said. Very well said indeed. And we will talk to you guys again very soon. We'll see you.
See ya.
Arrivederci.
Really, really hard, and they execute the system, and that's what it's all about.
Yes, sir.
Trust.
He's pretty big trust.
Big trust, baby.
Hey, yes, sir. Right on cue. Hey, let me.